Hello, Star Trek fans. Welcome to ReBinge It. This is the ReBinge Star Trek Voyager podcast. My name is Kim.
And my name is James.
And we are rebinging Star Trek Voyager from the beginning, one episode at a time. Welcome back to the podcast. Today, we are on Season 3, Episode 17, Unity. This episode aired February 12th, 1997. Before we talk about this one, anything to say about last week's episode, Blood Fever?
It was a lot of fun doing a terrible episode with Atiba.
Yeah, I don't know what to say about that episode. It's like...
questionable.
Well, it's like we're trying to do something big with the Vulcans, and then we do that, and it's just dumb. I guess we should just be happy they didn't do it with Tuvok. Imagine how dumb that would have been. Like the exact same story.
Oh, that would have been unforgivable.
Yeah. But anyway, on to better things.
The podcast was fun, though.
Yeah, it was a good conversation. Even the bad ones can be good to talk about, unless they're really bad, like Tattoo or something. You know, where we feel like, oh no, it's insulting and racist. It's like, why? But yeah, it wasn't that bad.
Yes, Prophet and Lace comes to mind.
Are you ready? I have the notes this week.
Yes, over to you.
We open on Chuckles and Ensign Kaplan in a shuttle.
Still going strong.
They're on a scouting mission in the Nekret Expanse, but a nearby nebula is messing with their navigational systems and they're going in circles. They pick up a Federation hailing beacon and assume it's Voyager there to save them, but when they follow it, they find it's coming from a planet. Chuckles says the sensor readings are sketchy. That's a technical term.
Yeah.
But he's picking up 80,000 humanoid life signs and some rudimentary structures and technology.
Yeah.
They then pick up a distress call of a woman's voice saying, "Federation vessel, we urgently need your help." They can't establish two-way communication, so they launch a message buoy for Voyager so that Voyager can find them, and they head down to the planet. Down on the planet, we're in trouble immediately.
Yeah.
Chuckles and Kaplan are in a dark area full of rubble. Kaplan says it looks like a war zone. Like, beam away. This is not good.
Already a bad idea.
Well, some unfriendly people in robes emerge from the darkness, and we go into the opening credits.
Okay, first thing to bring up here is, we're back in the Nekret Expanse. What happened with the last two episodes?
Well, we never mentioned it in the last two episodes.
Yeah.
But I guess we still could have been in the Nekret Expanse.
I think this is the network putting things out of order.
Yeah, it's entirely possible that these things are out of order, and someone will probably tell us, because somebody always tells us.
They usually do,
things are out of order, and we don't know, But I think it's also possible that we've just been in this expanse, but nothing is happening with, outside interference, except for in Coda, we had that weird death alien.
Yes.
But they kind of say here later in this episode that it's sparsely populated, so they're not running into very many aliens.
Yeah.
So it's possible the last two were just nothing happening.
Within the Nekret Expanse? And nobody thought to mention it? Yeah, okay.
I mean, it's possible. You can hand wave. Well, you don't have to say every week we're in the Nekret Expanse unless it has something to do with the story.
Okay. But Tom does mention later that he's kind of bored. And if we've been to two different planets in the last week and had the captain almost die, that's fairly exciting.
Yeah, but he didn't have much to do.
Well, it was quite exciting for Tom last week.
Yeah, why was he bored after what happened last week? That's a good point. Well, I think they did that for dramatic effect with what happens right after he said it. And also because, did you notice that actor directed this episode?
Oh, there you go.
So he just gave himself a little joke. Well, we quickly get into a firefight with the dudes in robes, and this is a firefight we do not win. First, Kaplan goes down.
5 minutes and 34 seconds, and Kaplan has left the show.
Well, you don't know she's dead yet, but yes. Then Chuckles gets into a hand-to-hand battle with one of the attackers, and while he wins the fight, he ends up getting shot by a different dude, and he also goes down. And did you notice the way that when he got shot, he kind of shimmered? And you get like this feeling of, oh, he's going to disintegrate. But then he didn't. He just falls to the ground.
If you notice, he got taken out by a rear guard action. While he was fighting forwards, the guy just like sneaks up behind him. I'm starting to understand why the Marquis lost so badly.
Yeah, they're not great. While Chakotay is unconscious, a different group of robed individuals appears and scare away the first group. They pick Chuckles up off the ground and drag him away.
And the weapon they're using is like some kind of flamethrower that chases the other people away.
Yeah, it's kind of it's like a flamethrower that shoots in a beam.
Yes. Well,
it looked effective.
And this is like the old Boba Fett game where the flamethrower was the best weapon.
Yeah. There's always one weapon in the game that's the right weapon to use for everything.
Yeah.
I can't remember which game. It was the shotgun. It was one of the zombie games.
I just remembered one of the Jedi games. You would your favorite move was picking people up and throwing them off the edge of things.
Oh, God, I loved that game. It was very satisfying. I really like that game.
I don't know if that says something about you.
That was one of the Wii games. I can't remember what the name of the game was. Chuckles wakes up in a dark room with a woman's voice telling him not to move too much because he has a bad injury.
Yeah.
The woman emerges from the darkness and we learn she is human and her name is Riley Frazier. She says her people saved him and she's the one who sent the distress call. Unfortunately, Ensign Kaplan is dead. And that is pretty much the last we hear about her.
Well, at least she got some lines. I mean...
she did get a couple lines, that's true.
She was a red shirt in the truest tradition.
Yeah. She wasn't wearing red, though, was she?
No.
Wasn't she wearing yellow?
Yeah.
Chuckles wants to get to his shuttle, but she says the others will have already dismantled the shuttle for parts, so he might as well just chill out. He has a pretty bad head injury, and he's a little disoriented, but he wants to know how she got here.
So there's another shuttle we've lost.
Yep. So Riley tells a story of being a science officer on a vessel in the Bolian sector 7 or 8 years ago. She says they were attacked by aliens, generic aliens.
Aliens.
Put into stasis and ended up on this planet. There are a few other humans here, but also Klingons, Cardassian, Romulans, and many other species.
Yep.
They don't know who these generic aliens were or why they left them here. I did notice in this scene that Riley has impeccably tweezed eyebrows, like way over tweezed, thin lines. So I guess they've got that going for them. They've got tweezers if they don't have anything else.
Well, that is kind of funny that Riley is absolutely perfectly made up.
Oh, she definitely is. She continues, resources are limited on this planet, and many of the aliens are suspicious of each other, so the fighting started pretty quickly after we got here. Some of us have established a cooperative and are trying to make the best of it. Chuckles wants to contact Voyager, but she says their communications array is damaged and needs to be repaired before he'll be able to do that. So he wants to get to work, but she tells him he's suffered serious neural trauma and should rest while the others repair the array.
Yeah.
I mean, neural trauma is bad. You need more than rest.
So I'm assuming that's like some kind of enhanced concussion, or it's actually damaged his brain chemistry with the thing they shot him with.
Well, I think if it's neural trauma, there's been some damage to nerves.
Oh, so brain damage.
Well,
how much brain damage?
He's already been brain damaged, hasn't he, in this show? Didn't we joke about that in the beginning? Remember on the one where he disappeared or where he died and he was actually floating around the ship?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. The doctor said he suffered brain damage.
No big deal.
No big deal. Well, Janeway's always willing to let people suffer a little bit of brain damage.
Yeah, how much?
We jump to Voyager now, where we learn that we're on a month-long journey through a sparsely populated region of the Nekret Expanse. Not sure if that means the month-long journey is through the entire expanse, or if we're just in a particularly sparsely populated region of the Nekret Expanse, which is bigger. But anyway,
that's a good
it's at least nice that we've acknowledged the Nekret Expanse again. Tom complains this region of space is boring when Tuvok says he's picked up an unidentified ship on long-range sensors. The ship isn't responding and seems to be stopped right in front of them.
Can you imagine how almost impossible it is, given the size of space, that when you're heading in one direction, there's literally a ship right in front of you on your flight path?
No, it's completely impossible, but you have to let go of stuff like that. I mean, if he said, what else would he say? It's for dramatic effect.
I know.
I think you're being overly picky.
I'm being very picky on this episode, yes.
Well, I don't know why. Are you going to complain next about the gravity on the ship or something?
Have you read my notes?
I mean, it's all fake. What do you want? Oh, Lord. Now I'm worried. Well, we put the ship on screen and we see it's not just any ship. It's a big, dark Borg cube. Janeway jumps up and says, "Red alert."
Woohoo. It's the Borg. Yes.
I really enjoy the little hints of the Borg because this, again, we are sort of right after when First Contact was released. Yep. So I think it's really smart for them to start peppering us with the Borg, but not overwhelm us with it because we just got overwhelmed by First Contact, right? But we just have these little hints until we get to some real Borg later. Well, the cube appears to be adrift and none of the systems are online. But do we remember that they sometimes go dormant and regenerate? So, be careful.
Well, not only is it not online, Harry says there's absolutely no power on the ship.
Right. Yeah, but they could be hiding. Instead of running away like a sane person, Janeway calls for more scans, and we definitely are not picking up any life signs. Tuvok reminds everyone that the Borg don't tend to abandon their old equipment or people, so he suggests that they be on alert for other Borg cubes.
Right.
And then, like an absolute maniac, Janeway says, we're going to board that ship and learn as much as we can about Borg technology.
And once again, Tuvok, this could be really dangerous, and Janeway is, let's go.
She's hoping that they can identify some weaknesses. And again, I asked, did we forget what happened in Best of Both Worlds? Someone get the VCR out. We need to watch those episodes.
I think so. But that's definitely a 10 out of 10 on the Janeway reckless scale.
Yeah, with Tuvok saying, we should be careful.
You know what happens, right?
Yeah. She's like, yes, right. Let's go on that ship. Okay. Back on the planet now, Chuckles is learning from Riley that the cooperative grows all of their own food. And he's chomping away on a green bean from a big bowl of green beans. And then like an absolute monster, after he's taken a few bites of one, he puts it back in the cooperative bowl.
He double dips.
What the hell, Chakotay? That is rude.
Oh. And this is how diseases spread.
That really annoyed me. Like, what are you doing? He keeps touching the side of his head in obvious pain, and we can see there's a big bruise.
Good makeup work as well, actually.
Oh, yeah. It looks bad. Riley asks why his crew doesn't just find a nice M-class planet and settle down rather than continue on this long, maybe hopeless journey.
Like the planet of the 37, that was a pretty nice place.
Mm-hmm.
We never saw the cities, but they told us it was nice.
There were 4 people there.
Yeah.
But Chuckles says it's an opportunity to explore, and he says we've made a good life for ourselves on Voyager. I mean, sure, he's, second in command. Does everybody else feel that way?
Good for him.
Yeah. He says he's sure that Janeway would agree to take all of her people along on the journey, and because he assumes that's why she sent the distress call.
Yeah.
But she says this place is their home, and the people in the cooperative have a deep connection. This is really suspicious because she says something about, she says these other people feel like her ancestors. It's like, what?
Yeah, I was wondering about that. I don't have an answer.
Her distress call was because they would like some security upgrades and medical supplies and maybe some weapons to protect themselves. She says they're trying to create a society built on tolerance, shared responsibility, and mutual respect.
Yeah.
I mean, that's never going to work. She says we're not about to give up on this just because it's difficult.
They're building a new society. Good luck.
Yeah, it's like, good luck with that. I mean, we can't even tolerate each other. It's never going to happen. The shared responsibility, that's a joke. Who's going to do that? Nobody. Mutual respect, forget about it.
It's not my fault. It's those other people that did it.
I'm just going on how things are going today. She tells Chakotay she's going to go work on the communications array while he rests. But Chuckles says he wants to help, and she goes, no, very quickly.
Oh, yeah.
And then pretends like she just meant, oh, you need to rest. But as she leaves, Chuckles watches her press some buttons on a panel to open the door, so he's trying to figure out how to get out of the room he's in.
Yeah, it's all very, very suspicious.
It is very suspicious, yeah. Back to Voyager, and we're stopped in front of the Borg cube.
I love this space shot. You've got little Voyager and this giant Borg cube completely dwarfed by it. It's a great space shot. It's a really quick, it's only like a couple of seconds or so on screen. But I really like the sense of scale that you got from this.
Yeah. It's like all of the early episodes with the Enterprise, which is a bigger ship than Voyager, but it still looked tiny next to the Borg cubes. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
B'Elanna and Tuvok and some other crew members are poking around on the cube. They find an access node which B'Elanna may be able to use to tap into the main data systems. They look around for a port to connect to and stumble across a dead Borg. And This is where I was like, wow, this really feels like that Prodigy episode with the Borg.
Yeah. Oh, let sleeping Borg lie.
Yeah. Again, if you haven't watched Prodigy, here's your chance.
Yes, you absolutely need to go and watch Prodigy. Do it now. Pause the podcast, go and watch Prodigy.
And then listen to that part of our podcast.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Shall I point out that if all the power is out and there are no active systems on this ship, as Harry said earlier, how is there any life support on this ship? And why are they not wearing spacesuits? And they even go on and talk about all the Borg that are preserved in vacuum.
Yeah, if they're in a vacuum, exactly. How are we breathing? How are we walking? How is there gravity? Yeah. Don't think too much about it.
I am waving my hand right now.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about the fact that there wouldn't be any oxygen. Hadn't thought about that. Yeah. Well, I mean, again, that's the kind of thing where it's expensive. And so it's one of those things you just accept on the television sci-fi, in the 90s. But yeah, that's a bit of a flaw.
Well, yeah, we're missing out on some cool spacesuit scenes.
Disco would throw on some spacesuits.
Oh, Disco had some of the best spacesuits.
Back to Voyager now, and we're discussing what we learned on the cube. The Borg ship seemed to have stopped working about 5 years ago, and there are something like 1,100 corpses on board. Some of the bodies were preserved in a spatial vacuum, so they brought one aboard for some ridiculous reason, which I still do not understand.
Wait a minute. You can't bring the sick guy from the mine aboard, but we're bringing a Borg aboard.
No big deal. Janeway wonders why the Borg would just abandon this ship, and Tuvok suggests that the link may have been severed when the ship was deactivated. They wonder what caused it to shut down, B'Elanna wondering if it was an enemy even more powerful than the Borg, which causes some dramatic music to play.
I like that with B'Elanna because it makes me think of Jurati in Picard Season 2, where she tells the Borg Queen, it's how it always ends. A lone Borg Slayer, a united Federation. It just made me think of that, of the something bigger than the Borg that eventually just kills them.
Jurati was probably the breakout character in Season 2. I mean, not obviously not counting Picard and 7 of 9, but I think she was the new character who became the most interesting character.
Oh, yeah.
Well, Janeway says to keep scanning for other Borg vessels and proposes they rendezvous with Chakotay ahead of schedule. Good idea.
She now only thinks of Chakotay.
Speaking of Chuckles, he plays around with the access pad on the wall until he gets the door open and he starts sneaking around the compound. We see lots of different aliens and bits of technology lying around. Everybody's busy, walking back and forth, carrying things. When we see a female alien walk by with a missing arm, we immediately know what's coming. At least I immediately knew what was coming.
There was another guy as well who seemed to be missing an arm.
Okay. Eventually, Chuckles finds a very tall dude with an eye implant and a mechanical, Borg-like arm working on the back of a woman's bald head. The woman turns around, and it's Riley, in a pretty good bald cap, I would say.
And Chakotay says, Riley, you're bald.
That's funny. Instead of your Borg. Dramatic ad break as Chuckles realizes he's engaged the Borg.
Do we want to talk about, so where did Riley get the hair from?
Yeah, I think that's a good question, because she's got this blonde wig, obviously, that she's been wearing. And does she wear it all the time, or does she, did they just put it together for this? What was the deal with the wig? I don't know.
Yeah, these are important questions we need to know.
Well, I know. Did she go around to all the other Borg and start pulling out their hair, all the corpses until she got a full wig? It's a good question. After the ad break, Riley says, we were Borg. And Chuckles says, your kidnapping story left out a few details, like how you were assimilated. I like that.
Yeah, that was good.
She says, yes, at Wolf 359. But 5 years ago, their cube was damaged by an electrokinetic storm and their link to the collective was severed. She says we were free and we could remember who we were.
Yeah.
And then they start talking really quickly, to try to convince Chakotay that everything's okay. They talk about how they transported to the planet, started to get their natural skin pigmentation back, and worked to replace their damaged body parts using the Borg technology. They're working very hard to convince Chuckles that this was a very happy time until the euphoria wore off, and then some started to turn on the others and fighting broke out. But Riley says we're not all like that. The cooperative and her new society plan are real.
So some of them are buying into this cooperative and living together.
Yeah. Eating the green beans.
Yeah. Why is there a half-eaten one in here?
Ew. The tall guy says, as evidence, he's Romulan and he's supposed to hate humans, but he and Riley are friends. It's okay, I'm not sure how much evidence that is, but sure.
So it's working in a small way.
Chakotay asks why they kept this from him, and she rightfully says she knows how people feel about the Borg. Thank you very much. She asks Chuckles if he'll still help them, but he starts to pass out, and they grab him before he hits the ground.
That was obviously a little bit too much stress for him.
Well, Voyager is headed towards Chakotay's message buoy. The doctor has started an autopsy on the Borg corpse, and he says, there's nothing like the vacuum of space to preserve a handsome corpse.
He is really chipper about this.
Yeah.
He seems to be very genuinely enjoying it. And I feel there's a missed opportunity here. Neelix should be televising this on his show. It could be like Borg Autopsy.
Oh, geez. It's a new channel.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, the doctor is scanning the dead Borg, discovering he was probably electrocuted. He uses a cortical probe on a axonal amplifier he finds in the Borg's head. And the Borg suddenly activates, opens his eye, and sits up, causing everyone in the room to freak out.
And if you notice, the doctor said he thinks it was an axonal amplifier. So you're just sticking live bits of technology into things that you think are something.
Yeah, into a Borg. Although I guess, in his defense, they're all convinced the Borg is dead. The doctor shuts it down quickly, saying he's not really alive. He just inadvertently activated a backup neuroelectric power cell. He says no reason for concern, though B'Elanna says this caused the corpse to reset to its original programming, and we don't want all the rest of the corpses to reactivate in the same way.
Okay, I have to bring up my next complaint. The biological components of that Borg are dead.
Yeah.
Borgs don't work if their biological components are destroyed, or in this case, desiccated by being in the vacuum of space and cold for an extended period of time.
Well, this one was in the protected vacuum or whatever.
It would still be freezing if they didn't have any systems or life support or anything online. They're violating their own canon.
It's almost like they should have said that there was a bubble where the life support was still running or something instead of what they did. Because, this is in my overanalysis too. Like, I don't get it. How does a dead Borg come back to life?
Right. It wasn't even in an alcove. And even the alcoves need to be powered.
Yeah.
Like I said, it's violating their own canon. Well, we just had this in First Contact. So if you destroy the biological component, they carry on working? I think the answer is clearly no.
Well, what might have worked is if it just sort of turned them into just like a robot, like the, what's the robot in Lost in Space? It's just waving its arms, but it doesn't actually have the ability to think or speak or follow orders. It's just electronically moving. Or mechanically, not electronically. It's mechanically moving.
Which I would totally accept, except they're not functional without the biological part.
Right. Yeah, and also the collective part of them is gone. So it doesn't, I agree. This I thought was not good. Back down on the planet, and the tall Borg Romulan dude says Chuckles is getting worse, and there's only one option to help him. Chuckles overhears this and asks what they're talking about, and the tall dude says the Borg collective consciousness is extremely powerful, and the continuous neuroelectric field they share is capable of regenerating damaged components of an injured member of the collective.
Now that was interesting, that the Borg can actually transfer energy to other members of the collective and actually repair each other. That I thought was a really cool idea.
Yeah, because Riley describes it as a sort of subspace transfusion, where hundreds or even thousands of Borgs could transmit neuroelectric energy to whomever needed it, and it can be used to heal organic and inorganic body parts. I agree, that is interesting.
That would align with a lot of the things we know about the Borg, of how kind of tough they are and how they seem to be able to repair and continue working.
Yeah, and why they pick up the injured, right? It's like, because they can just fix it.
Right.
Yeah. Well, all the aliens here have still got Borg neural transmitters implanted in their systems, and they could use a portable transponder to relink their brain patterns in a small group for a short time and work to heal Chakotay's injuries. He's understandably completely freaked out by this and says he doesn't want anything implanted in his brain. And the tall guy says he would just attach a small neurotransceiver to the base of his skull temporarily and then remove it as soon as the tissue is repaired. Sure.
No risks. This will all be fine. We've done it before, like never.
Never. He assures Chuckles there'd be no lasting effects of the procedure. Chuckles still declines, but Riley keeps trying, and the tall guy says, you're going to die if we don't do something immediately, and Chakotay finally is forced to give in.
I see that as very genuine, that he really was going to die. I don't think they were lying or over-exaggerating the truth.
Yeah, I think so.
This is also a very exposition-heavy episode.
I know, there's so many words, and I tried to cut it, but it's still, I have a lot of words in my notes.
And when you said about the speed, they're also getting it out at great speed.
Yeah.
It's impressive for the actors to deliver so much techno-babble so quickly.
I know. So they hook up a tiny transceiver to the back of Chakotay's head, and a group of aliens forms around his bed. And we hear the familiar collective voices telepathically telling him to open his mind to their thoughts. They say our collective strength will heal you. You are safe with us. Feel the connection. There's nothing to fear. We won't let you die. Stuff like that.
Positive reinforcement. I do like that.
Yeah. And suddenly, Chakotay starts having flashes of memories of the other people. We see battles and memories of childhoods and different locations that the collective members lived. It's very dramatic.
Yes, I like that shared memory scene. I thought that really worked sort of pretty well.
Because it also mixed in with Chakotay's own memories. So I think that was to show that the rest of them were getting his memories. Later, Chakotay wakes up feeling better. Chuckles says the experience was incredible.
And one of the Borg says, "And why did your dad dress like Indiana Jones?"
He said he heard their thoughts as if they were his own. He saw faces and planets and images of their family members. He says he knows things about them all now, including memories of Riley's grandfather, which was the guy they kept showing in the flashback, or whatever that was, the memory transference.
The memory montage.
And then Riley puts her hand to her face, and Chakotay feels it on his own face. She says it's a residual effect from the link, and it will only last a few hours. And then we have some telepathic flirting, and maybe more, not sure. We're not really explicit.
I'm pretty sure Chakotay got lucky with a Borg.
It did seem like it.
I mean, we haven't seen that since Data and the Borg Queen.
He did not have sex with the Borg Queen.
Totally.
He did not. This I would believe. But of course, what's going through my mind is that Chuckles cannot smell good. He's been wearing the same torn up uniform, for days? Has the man even washed since he's been there? I mean, I don't know. Maybe the Borg don't have a sense of smell. I don't know. Yeah. But that puts me off.
From the look of everyone there and the sort of the living environment, I'm pretty sure everybody smells bad. Their ability to smell has actually turned off.
Yeah. Well, the Borg may turn off that sense. I don't know. Voyager finally arrives and starts calling Chakotay and poor lost Ensign Kaplan. We do say her name one more time.
Yeah.
But there's something interfering with comms. Down on the planet, we are working on the communications array, and the tall guy thanks Chakotay for adding a renewed sense of hope to their cooperative.
Yeah.
He says having a new mind in the link was invigorating. This guy, I find he's very sunny for how scary they make him look. Because even he's on the thumbnail, and you're like, oh, that's the bad guy in the episode. Yeah. No, not really. No, he's the doctor.
Well, I think it's a good story choice to have a guy who looks like a scary Borg with the implant and everything.
Yes.
But have him almost as a face of the optimism of what they're trying to do.
He's very upbeat.
Sort of the face of the cooperative. And he seems very genuine. I think that's something that this actor puts into this character.
Chuckles tells Riley he now knows that they want more than just supplies from Voyager. He says it's a radical concept without revealing what this concept is.
Yeah.
The tall guy says they've detected Voyager in orbit.
One of the things I thought was quite well done in this scene was how Chakotay seemed to feel the experience of being part of the Borg and felt like it was a good thing. It was a positive experience for him. And this again kind of reminds me of Picard season 2. And when Jurati saw what the potential was, the positive potential of the Borg shared mind.
Yeah. But they also were playing into her being sort of lonely.
Yes.
And this giving her a different sense of self.
And connection to others.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I feel this is in a similar vein and was like almost 30 years before Picard.
Right. I guess it just wasn't something that Chakotay was necessarily lacking. It was just a new experience for him.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, to Voyager we go now, and Riley tells Janeway that the solution to their problem, meaning everything that's going on down on her planet, is to reestablish the neural link among all of the former Borg on the planet. She says when they were linked as Borg, there was no ethnic conflict, no crime, no hunger, no health problems.
No individuality, no sense of self.
We were one harmonious family. And Janeway says, with all due respect, you were one harmonious family bent on the violent assimilation of innocent cultures. Riley says we're not Borg anymore, and we just want to take the one good thing that existed in the link, their unique ability to cooperate and problem solve, and use it to create a safe and productive community.
Yeah.
I mean, whether the others want to or not, which is the problem with this plan.
Yeah, that would pretty much be the downside of it.
I mean, it's almost like we're going to force you back into the link. It's almost like a group drug, you know, so that you don't think for yourself anymore. She says the neurotransponder they used on Chuckles is only powerful enough to use on a small group, and the effects are temporary.
Yeah.
To reconnect the entire population permanently, they'd need a much bigger field generator, meaning they want to reactivate the Borg cube's neuroelectric generator and redirect it toward the planet. And Janeway is like, are you out of your mind?
Yeah, the way she says, you can't be serious.
I know, it was really good. But Riley says they don't want to reactivate the entire ship, just the specific generator, and only for a few minutes. No big deal.
Riley does give a good pitch.
She does, but Janeway, of course, is worried that it will attract other Borg vessels, which would be big trouble, so she's not convinced.
Yeah.
Though she does eventually agree to consider it. When Riley leaves, with an armed guard, by the way,
I noticed that.
Janeway asks Chuckles what he thinks, and he thinks she's being sincere, and he didn't detect any negative intent when he was linked with them.
Yeah.
So she asks if he thinks they should do what they're asking, and he says he cares about what happens to them, so in his heart he'd like to do everything possible to help them. But he says if he were sitting in the captain's chair, he'd have second thoughts. She points out they'd be forcing a decision on thousands of people who have no voice in their own decision, like they'll be reassimilated.
Yeah, but they're not part of the cooperative, so they don't matter.
Yeah. She also says it's a terrible risk to create a new collective because we don't know what that could mean.
That, I think, is the biggest potential problem.
Yeah. You could be creating a bigger problem than the Borg. Chuckles understands and says he'll let Riley know. Down on the planet now, Chuckles tells Riley about the decision, and she seems okay with it. She says maybe they'll find a different way to reestablish the link. He tries to convince her to come with them on Voyager, but she says no. So the Voyager crew who've been there with the supplies that they were asking for, they all leave.
On the shuttle.
On different shuttles.
Are there more than one shuttle?
Yes, because later Janeway says tell Neelix we'll rendezvous with his shuttle later.
Oh, okay.
On the way back to Voyager, B'Elanna and Chuckles are in a shuttle together when Chakotay suddenly hears the Borg voices in his head again.
Oh.
At first he thinks he's imagining it, but then he hears it again, and they're saying they need his help. When B'Elanna suggests that he needs the doctor to examine him, Chuckles pulls out a phaser and shoots her. And we go into an ad break. Was it season 2 of Picard, or 3? I think it was 2, when 7 of 9 hooked herself up to the Borg cube?
It was 2, yeah.
I mean, that was terrifying when that happened, because you're just like, oh no, right? And she starts hearing the things in her head, and I had sort of a similar vibe here when he's hearing the voices.
Well, even worse, she was hooking herself up as the queen. That was actually a great scene, because at the end, she's actually able to take it off, and she says, Annika is not finished.
Oh. On the bridge, Tuvok reports that Chakotay's shuttle has changed course and is heading to the Borg cube.
Oh, dear. Just blow up the shuttle. Shoot the shuttle.
Well, we don't want to hurt B'Elanna. Beam her over and then do it.
You've got that other guy. He can take over.
Oh, the engineering guy. Hogan. Hogan or Casey. Those two that I could never tell apart and still can't tell apart. I think it was Casey.
Hogan was killed.
Hogan and Casey, same person. It's like the other day when we were watching something on TV and I said, look at these two guys. They're the same person. The voices in Chakotay's head are telling him where to go on the cube, and they keep saying the bunker is under attack. We see all the Borg standing in a circle. I mean, the former Borg.
Yeah.
About to be new Borg, whatever. Standing in a circle, talking to Chakotay, and we see the outside dudes banging on the door with like a big battering ram.
Yeah, they're trying to smash down the door and get into the bunker.
Yeah. So Chuckles on the Borg cube is following their instructions as Tuvok and others try to find him. Although I don't know why they wouldn't be able to find him. He's wearing his comm badge.
That's a good point. I would say maybe it's interference on the cube.
But all the systems are dead.
Can you turn comm badges off? Can you take the battery out?
I think we've proven no. Because they always just drop them off and then that confuses everything.
Right.
Well, anyway, Chakotay follows the collective's instructions to hook up something and do something in order to activate the neuroelectric generator. The details don't matter.
Yeah, he's got to press a button or...
He's got to plug something in and then press a button.
Yeah.
When the Voyager crew find him, they try to get him to stop, but Chakotay shoots first, taking down Tuvok, and then Harry shoots Chakotay, but he manages to turn the thing on before he hits the ground, and the cube starts lighting up, and it's like, uh-oh.
Now, Chakotay's obviously been taken over by the Borg or something, and it is doing things to the Borg ship and you come up and say, please stop.
Well, they don't know that yet, that he's been taken over by the Borg.
Yes, but they do know that he is disobeying orders and he is acting irrationally.
He's about to turn on the Borg ship. They should have just shot him. I agree with you, yeah. The Marauders on the planet instantly stop attacking as the voices now fill their heads too.
Yep.
But bad news. On the Borg cube, the drones all start waking up and coming for the crew. Although they're just walking towards them again. Have we just turned them on mechanically and they're not really doing anything? I don't know.
And now their shields are coming on. They seem to be...
Oh, right. That's right. Yeah, weapons are coming online. Yeah.
They're coming out of the alcoves.
No, you're right. We quickly gather up our damaged crew members and beam away. Janeway tells Tom to get them out of there as the Borg ship is powering weapons.
Yep.
She says prepare for battle, but Harry says, oh no, never mind. The cube has initiated a self-destruct sequence and it's going to blow in 3 seconds.
Yeah.
Janeway says, get us out of here, Tom. But the ship blows up before they can even turn around. But it's okay. The shields hold.
Great visual effect of a Borg cube exploding.
Yeah.
Always a good sign.
I mean, would the shields hold when this thing exploded? I guess if you're far enough away, but they looked really close.
Yeah. I mean, and it was huge.
Yeah.
I might have an answer for that. Janeway told Tom to be ready to get us out of there, so Tom might have basically jumped to warp at that point.
I mean, based on what we saw, I don't think so, but okay.
We only saw the bit where he was just using impulse to get a little bit further away and then jump to warp.
I mean, we saw the ship explode, so...
Low warp factor.
I disagree with your hand wave. I put up my talk to the hand to your hand wave. Well, now they get a call from the planet, and it's a creepy Borg collective voice again.
Yeah.
And the voice, or the voices, say, we are the new cooperative. We have destroyed the Borg cube. We regret that we forced Commander Chakotay to assist us, but it was necessary for our survival. His link with the cooperative has now been severed. Our lasting gratitude. And the look on Janeway's face is like, oh, shnikey. And we fly away.
Well, that's actually a little different from normal. They regret forcing Chakotay to help, so that's not your normal collective.
That is true. In sickbay, the doctor says Chakotay's neuropeptide levels have returned to normal, and there are no residual traces of the link. It seems once they repaired their communications array, they were able to amplify their short-range signal and link with Chakotay again when he was in the shuttle. Chakotay apologizes to the captain. Even though he was acting against his will, he doesn't feel great about what happened.
Yeah.
He says he helped them repair the communications array, and he thought they were sincere. But Janeway points out that they didn't act like the typical Borg.
That's true.
But Chakotay reminds her they didn't hesitate to impose their collective will on him when it served their interests.
Yeah.
He says he wonders how long their ideals will last in the face of that kind of power. I would imagine not that long.
Well, that would be the number one worry about the cooperative. How long before they start behaving just like the regular collective? Oh,
yeah, totally.
We need some more people. We need some more equipment. We need some more expertise.
We need to get off this planet, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's for the greater good. And then you're back down to Riley as the next Borg queen and running the show.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's the end of the episode. Do you have overanalysis that we haven't already covered?
Yes, I do.
Go.
First of all, when Harry shot Chakotay, you notice he just falls and wipes his hand across the panel. Did he inadvertently power up the whole ship? If they just left him alone, would he powered up the one system, or was the fact that he fell on it and just pushed his hand down, it started everything up?
Okay, so you're saying he hadn't intended to turn on anything else, but
right.
He ended up reactivating the drones and powering up weapons or whatever else happened.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I suppose maybe. It's also possible that's what they wanted to have happen, but they kind of needed to turn on more than just that one system in order to get the self-destruct to work.
Oh, I think you're onto something there. For them to be safe, that cube needed to be destroyed.
Right.
So maybe that was the whole thing of they wanted to turn the whole ship on so it went operational so they could destroy it.
Correct.
Because an accident turned the ship off. An accident could enable a system on the ship. Another plasma discharge could enable the long-range comms and the Borg know where they are.
And they didn't want that. Yeah.
Yes. So maybe bringing the ship online, it could reconnect to the collective. The ship is destroyed. All the collective knows is, oh, it's destroyed.
Right.
It's self-destructed. It followed its protocol. So yeah, that might have been their idea because they needed it to be gone. Next thing. B'Elanna seems very afraid of the Borg.
Well, I think the Klingons have a real thing about having someone control them.
Oh, yeah, that's probably very true. That's probably a real nightmare for the Klingons. Yeah, okay, I'll accept that one. Next thing, telepathic Borg. Now, initially, I was a little bit annoyed about this because it's giving the Borg this telepathic element. But I was thinking about it and suddenly realized in the opening of First Contact, when Picard sees the cube, he can actually hear them. Yeah. And he's had all his implants removed.
Yeah, and he and Seven talk about that they can still hear them.
Plus, I think Data as well actually calls to Picard from engineering towards the end of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll accept this as, okay, so I guess there is a telepathic element, or there's always been a telepathic element with the Borg and their ability to communicate, even when they're out of the collective.
100%.
Did TNG ever address this?
I don't remember.
I don't remember either. I don't think so. So that one turned from why are they doing this too? Oh, okay, it's been done before. Yeah, it's settled canon.
Well, you can consider it part of this neuroelectric field or whatever it is that they were trying to generate, right?
Yeah.
That if the field is big enough, they'd be able to telepathically communicate with anyone who was in range.
Right.
But you also have to consider that they've probably over time assimilated telepathic species.
And used that, added their biological distinctiveness to their own.
Right. Stupid Borg.
My next point was when fully powered down and completely off, as Harry says, with no power signatures, how did any of the biological components survive?
Yeah, I think that's a hole in the story here.
Right.
Not only that once the Borg are dead, they should be dead. You should be able to revive them by resetting their programming. But also, there shouldn't be any gravity. There shouldn't be any life support on that ship. I really feel like they could have solved this problem with the spacesuits at some point if they had just made it canon that all they have to do is put like some little plastic thing in their mouth or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, what was the James Bond movie where the guy could breathe underwater? I mean, just something like, you just had to make something up so that, you don't need full spacesuits. You just need this thing. And the shield is invisible or, whatever. But they never did that.
We've got a localized force field. Yeah.
They don't do that until like way into the future on Disco. Yeah.
They did that in the animated series.
Did they?
Yeah.
I only saw a couple episodes of that completely weird animated series.
They had like personal force fields.
There was a thing that was released yesterday doing a combo thing of SpongeBob and Star Trek. That to me is like what the animated series was like. Just some weird thing that I don't know what they were thinking.
Gotcha. And I think my final point is, was this the right thing to do? I mean, a new type of collective. And interestingly, I think that's in some ways is the kind of one of the ideas of Picard season 2. They do end up with a new collective with Jurati.
A new kind of Borg,
This seems to have, there's some story parallels I feel from this. And I guess because the survivors, most of the survivors by the sound of it, had resorted to basically barbarism, this is the only way they could survive without further regressing. So in some ways, they're trying to survive, and these people are well-intentioned, usually which ends up in huge piles of bodies and lots of repression. But they feel they're doing the right thing. But at the same time, you're building a society based on rigid compliance through mind control. I mean, their own personal survival was in doubt because they were about to be overrun by the more violent side with the survivors. But yeah, I feel this won't end well for anyone.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you asked at the beginning, did we do the right thing? Well, we tried to do the right thing, and they forced our hand and did the other thing. So the right thing maybe didn't happen. We tried to do the right thing. But to your further point, I have in my overanalysis similar questions about this because it's like, what have we done? We've established a collective again against the will of the people. It's just like assimilating them again. It's a little bit like giving someone a lobotomy without their permission because you just need them to calm down. And I don't know. I mean, it's always easy to justify when you think you're being the rational person, right?
Which the 7 members of the cooperative seem to think.
Yeah. I mean, you could also say, are they the educated ones? Are they the sane ones? Or were the other ones? We don't know. We didn't really hear from the other ones. But did they try to talk to them? Did they try to feed them? Are they just banging on the doors because they're out of food?
Right.
I don't know. It had this sort of weird feeling to me like, is this a story about communism?
Yes.
Yeah. If we get everyone to think the same, have the same thing, then everyone will keep quiet.
Yeah. Well, I think any complete control totalitarian regime would fall under this of, if you follow the rigid compliance, you will be fine until you need to be an enemy, and then you won't be. But
they confused it by being like, well, the reason they want to do it is to stop the ethnic, whatever she said, the ethnic problems, which is basically the species fighting each other.
Yeah, well, the rest of the place seems to have devolved, like I said, into barbarism.
Yeah. It's like they've kind of convinced themselves that they're doing the right thing because of that.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. But from the outside, Janeway even said it. Most of these people, this is against their will what we're doing.
Right.
But they're not going to maybe survive without it. So is it the right thing? Yeah. It's a good question.
Yeah.
But we didn't really look into it. Like, could we have just helped them get food? Again, are they just hungry?
Yeah. If you gave them a replicator or repaired the Borg replicators or did something, would we have been able to create peace on the planet? And maybe the other ethnic groups lived in their own isolated pockets, but they didn't kill each other.
Maybe. Yeah, exactly. Maybe there's only like 10 of them that are terrible and you just needed to do something about those 10. Yeah, we just don't have enough information because it's possible that the only problem is everybody out there is starving and we just have to get them some food. It's sort of like we talked about what happened on Earth. The reason we were able to evolve was because we solved scarcity.
Yeah, and on that planet, it's extreme scarcity.
Yeah, but instead of solving the scarcity,
would just make everybody think the same.
We assimilated everybody. Yeah, and make everybody think the same. And it's like we drugged everybody to just calm down.
Yeah, just drug everyone. Everything will be fine.
This conversation shows what an interesting episode this is. Because there are so many different things to consider. And it's an example of a really simple story that Star Trek told, but it's actually multi-layered.
Right. Oh, great. And apart from losing another shuttle, that, I think, wraps up my overanalysis.
Yeah, in my overanalysis, it says, we lost another shuttle. Is this a story about communism? We established a collective again against other people. All things we already talked about.
Yeah.
How did the Borg drones die but not die? I've talked about that. The only thing in my overanalysis we didn't talk about is I'm disappointed that we forgot about Ensign Kaplan.
Who?
Yeah. We only care about someone dying if the story needs us to care about someone dying. And I don't like that. I don't respect that in storytelling.
We don't even get a memorial.
No. We could have done that. How easy would that have been? And because it's all, it could have been contained within the episode. It's not like you needed to go in the next episode and talk about her. Yeah. Just contain it at the end of this episode, have a little memorial at the end. But we just pretend like it never happened.
He could have had a memorial on the planet.
Anything, yeah. Yeah. I think it's because they just didn't want to do stuff like that in the 90s or maybe just in Star Trek. But I never like that. I don't respect it.
Well, it wasn't until the ship in Deep Space Nine we really got an episode about the fallout after crew members die.
Because the problem with it is it goes against the very ideals of Trek.
Yeah.
But it's also just this part of it, which is so annoying.
What do you mean?
That you wouldn't care about anyone. You would just be like, no big deal. Who cares about that guy? We just get a different guy. You know what I mean?
Oh, that's
not the Star Trek way.
Starfleet, send another dozen ensigns. We burned through the last lot.
Yeah. We need another interchangeable ensign. So in terms of my other categories, I don't have much. Like women in the future, there's not much to say. Riley was an interesting character, but there wasn't anything different about her, based on her being a woman.
Question here.
Yeah?
Do you think Riley was aiming to be the new Borg queen?
I don't know. I didn't really think that until you said Borg queen. And then I was like, maybe. But
I mean, she seemed to be the face of it, but I guess it was simply because she was a human.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I thought they sent her in to talk to Chakotay because she was the human, but maybe she's the smartest one. I don't know. Maybe she was the Borg queen. We don't know.
She's the queen of the collective.
Could have been, which is why she's working so hard to get it back. She wants her power back.
Just call it a monarchy. Just forget the collective bit. Just call it a monarchy.
Yeah. And in Janeway's leadership corner, I mean, I think we all did the best we could under the circumstances. You know, I liked the conversation between Chakotay and Janeway when she was like, she wanted his opinion and he really wanted to help them. But he was like, yeah, but if I were the captain, I wouldn't do this, right? I thought that was a pretty good conversation.
You know, I've talked about you seeing the evolution of the Chakotay character quite quickly in the show. And I think this is an example of a more measured Chakotay who's thinking like a proper captain.
That's true. More than he would have been in season 1, or if it had involved Seska, when he just lost his mind every time she was involved.
Yeah. And I like that's what they're doing with Chakotay. They're making him a real first officer.
Yeah, good point.
But Janeway and leadership, though, we're going to go on the cube. I totally get the reason why is to get information about the Borg and maybe learn stuff that is useful. But at the same time, you're on your own out here.
Yeah. Well, which is why they need more info, because they're not going to get any help if something does happen. And they've got evidence that the Borg, are in this sector.
Yep, the Borg are hanging around.
It's the second time they've seen him now.
In 2 weeks, it's getting worse.
Yeah. So let's go to rating. Thumbs up, thumbs down, or neutral. What is your rating?
Okay. I think this is an interesting episode. I also think there's a real line of some of the aspects of this episode that have filtered into Picard 2. And, of course, Prodigy, Let Sleeping Borg Lie.
Yeah.
So it's funny because I think this episode's the first time we've seen a Borg cube actually asleep.
Yeah. Or out of service, basically. And it's a big part of Picard. Yeah.
So, in terms of rating, I'm going with a thumbs up. It's actually a good episode. It's got a lot of interesting concepts in it. It's got some great Borg, of course. The Borg, we get a really great close-up scene of a whole Borg drone when the doctor's trying the autopsy. And I think the overall story idea is it's good sci-fi. And it's actually good storytelling. I mean, this is the ultimate needs of the few, needs of the many storyline. So, thumbs up, enjoyable. I liked it.
Yeah, I give it a thumbs up. I think it's really good. There's absolutely some holes in it, like what's going on that cube when there's no power. Those things don't make any sense. But I think the story is really good. And it leaves a lot of questions at the end for you to think about yourself. Right? And I do like that. And you can certainly, I've forgotten all about this episode. What a shock. I can't remember anything. But now, yes, I can see the tendrils of it later in other shows.
Yeah. Well, there's so much history and lore in Star Trek. It's funny when you see things that you can draw parallels to.
Yeah. Yeah. The through line of the Borg is, it's really critical. The introduction of, finally getting sort of a really good villain that you could extend into so many different stories.
Yeah.
Happened, I don't know what season that was in TNG, but that sort of changed everything.
Oh, right.
Yeah. So it makes sense to use them in different ways. And yeah, this was interesting. It's maybe not exactly in line like with what happened with Hugh and TNG. It's sort of the next evolution of it. So it's it was interesting.
I think as well, this now is we have a really great Star Trek villain appearing in Voyager.
Yeah.
We've had questionable villains. The Kazon are more annoying. They underplayed the Vidians, I'm afraid. And now we're going to the Borg.
The Vidians are the scariest villain we've had until we get to the Borg.
Oh, yeah.
All right, that wraps up Season 3, Episode 17. Come back next week for Episode 18. In the meantime, if you'd like to send us your own over-analysis of this or any episode, or if you just want to say something nice, you can email us at ReBingeIT@gmail.com. We are also on Threads, Instagram, Blue Sky, and YouTube at ReBingeIT, and you can join the Facebook group, facebook.com/groups/Star Trek TTM podcasts.
Thanks for joining us on the ReBinge Star Trek Voyager podcast.
That's it for me.
And that's it from me.